Educating 7th and 8th graders is a tremendous challenge. The staff at Rocky Run Intermediate in Chantilly has developed a program that includes considerable use of technology and stresses the importance of communication to address this challenge. These are just 2 elements they use to make learning fun. Find out more in this edition of Profile.
As a staff, when we look at what motivates kids and what we need to be doing for students to prepare them for the 21st century, we talked about 3 very important areas that we felt really contributed to the overall culture in our building. One of them is that we believe learning is fun, that it has to be enjoyable, it has to be something that kids value and something that kids look forward to each day when they come to school. The second area that we think is very important is preparing kids for the work world of the 21st century. That's why technology is an integral part of everything we do at Rocky Run. Most of our subject areas use technology, particularly computers and videotape and video disc aids during the course of just about every day. And we feel that the kids, in using these aids, prepare themselves for using computers and other tools when they enter the work world of the 21st century. In addition, we find that in certain areas, particularly in mathematics, science, English, social studies, and learning disabilities, that the use of computers is a real enhancement to the instructional program. The third area that we looked at is one that I don't think very many of us are really doing an effective job in, and that's communicating. And there are different kinds of communications within a school. There are communications between students, students to teachers, teachers to students, administrators to students, back and forth. Certainly teachers to teachers within a teaming environment is a critical aspect of communications. But we find that communicating is something that we need to work on every day because we simply don't do it as well as we can, and that requires us to be constantly vigilant in improving that process. We feel that if we're successful in working through these 3 areas, and of course, in addition to providing the curriculum that not only is required by the county, but we feel is important for our student body, then we'll be providing kids with a very strong educational base when they go into high school. The biggest challenge, unquestionably, is the maturation process for kids who are 12 to 14 years of age. They are very different. They can be anywhere from 4.5 feet tall to 6.5 feet tall, weigh anywhere from 50 or 60 pounds all the way up to 250 pounds. Their maturity levels may range from that of a 10-year-old to that of an 18-year-old. Their outlook on life in terms of their age and their maturation can be very different. And yet we're asked to provide them with a very effective kind of an education program when so many changes are occurring in their lives in terms of physical changes, emotional changes, and social changes. The problem that we encounter is that those social, emotional, and physical factors can become such overriding concerns in the minds of our students that they get in the way of their learning. And it's our job to be sensitive to those concerns, to adjust for them, and to make sure that that learning process continues. One way we do that is by having our students on teams of about 130 students. By doing it that way, our teachers within those core teams get to really know these students.
The concept of teaching teams is not unique to Rocky Run. It is just another way to foster better understanding of students and their needs, and to improve communication between interested parties. And in this school, communication can take many forms.
Down, and it's about this colony of rabbits, and in that colony there are 2 rabbits named Hazel and Fiver. Now Fiver was sort of a psychic. He could tell if a flood was coming on
We have certain things that we need the children to learn, and yet we're dealing with children that don't want to sit still, that want to interact with the subject and do hands-on kinds of things, and we need them to be interested in what they're doing. The main thing in English class that we're trying to accomplish is communication skills. And that used to be just reading and writing, but now in Fairfax County, we've expanded that so that we're talking about speaking and thinking and listening skills as well. One of the main things that we're working on in this particular project is, one, having the children motivated to interact with literature through the books that they're reading, and two, to try to express it in many different ways.
Requirements that you needed to get one of Madame Durrett's schools. Madame Durrett tested all of her applicants in different ways. Some were tested by looking at smudged ink and telling her what they saw.
So what it does is it takes in those children that maybe don't think they're so good at English, and it makes them realize that English and communication is more than just reading and writing. It's getting up and developing poise to stand up in front of a group and speak. And it's also doing art and interpreting and understanding what it is that the communicator, the author, has to say.
It is said that music is the universal language. And not only is this form of communication fun, it offers other opportunities to increase learning. In this case, Master Sergeant David Detweiler of the United States Army Band came in and provided an entertaining lecture on the trumpet family to members of the band.
How would you guys like to wake up to that on Saturday morning at about 7 o'clock? Except once again,
as society becomes more diverse, a knowledge of other cultures can help foster understanding and acceptance. Through the introduction of foreign language class, students are exposed to the different languages used by many people to communicate with each other around the world.
I try to show them the difference between the English alphabet and the Spanish alphabet, and also try to show them the difference in the sounds of the different letters. And we always do some fun spelling exercise with those cards, and the kids usually enjoy that, and they don't even notice that they are learning something new, actually. Then we are doing some new vocabulary about classroom objects, because that's something that is very familiar for them. And I find that it's easy for them to learn about something that is close to their lives. And we finished the class with a little bingo game using the new vocabulary. And the purpose of the bingo game is for them to learn to recognize those new words, those new sounds. At this point, they're not really expected to produce these new words perfectly, but they can start recognizing them when they hear the word and associate the word with a particular object. Basically, the Lotto game is just a listening exercise. That's what it is, and we are calling it a game so that the kids will get in the mood. They say, oh, we are playing now, but they're actually learning something. I try to teach them about the culture of the different countries, and geography, and the history, and music and art, and try to give them a different view of the world, and also a view of the different cultures, the different ways of living, because I think that's very important, especially at this age, that they realize this is not the only place, this is not the only way of living.
Communication is always required when working in groups. Students in science classes are often paired up when working on labs and projects. In this case, fun is another byproduct of the learning process.
This is an environmental science class, and we stress our ecosystem, and we've just finished a unit on communities and populations, and the students have just studied predator-prey relationships and food webs and food chains. And they are now dissecting owl pellets as a culminating activity. And owl pellets are pellets of regurgitated food that an owl has consumed. And the purpose in their dissecting them is they can tell what animals owls have preyed on, and that really ties into our POS with food webs and food chains.
Who has a rodent? Raise your hand.
A what?
A what? Rodent. Whose is a rodent?
Oh,
Who thinks they have a shrew? Do you? How about a bird? No bird. One of the other classes got about 3 birds. It's really unusual. You know why?
Some of the animals' remains that the students are finding will be rodents, moles, voles. Some of them will find birds. They can actually find the larvae of some insects that the animals have ingested. And what they do is they pick apart the pellets, and they are cleaning off the bones, and they're categorizing them so that they can tell exactly what animal they have located. Some of them have actually found 3 skulls from 3 different animals in one pellet. And what they're going to be doing with, as soon as they're finished, you'll see some of them are already gluing the bones onto mat board because we're tying this in with an art lesson. And they are going to end up having an entire skeletal system from the animal that their owl ate on the mat board. We do focus on a lot of labs in this class, but this is one of their very favorites. And it's really neat because at the very end, they'll sit there and you can kind of catch the moment when they pick it up and they'll say, oh, we're doing this because this is what the owl ate, and probably next we're going to talk about what this animal, what a vole might have eaten. So it's kind of neat. You can see the instant tie-in, and it really fits in very well with what we're trying to stress all year. One of the things that we really want to do by providing kids with hands-on activities like this is to really get them hooked on science and to see that it's a part of them and that it really is fun. And hopefully, this is something that can carry throughout their learning.
When you get the copper sulfate, then you can begin testing your different electrodes, and you'll just follow right down through your data chart. The lab that we did today was the first lab in the electricity module, and the students were testing chemical reactions to see if they could get electricity produced. They were making a wet cell, so they were using a liquid electrolyte, which was the copper sulfate, and they were using different combinations of the electrodes. The metals that they were using were copper, zinc, carbon, and magnesium. Because it's a chemical reaction that occurs, they need to have 2 different metals so that one metal gives up electrons and the other receives. One becomes positively charged, the other negatively charged. If you have the 2 the same, then that doesn't happen. Making it go. Okay. What happened with your light?
It didn't work. We probably will try it again because we were holding them really far apart.
Okay, that's good. It's a good idea to try. It's a fun way for kids to learn. They love to have hands-on where they can actually see the things happen. There's a lot of things that they have to do, a lot of manipulation, but it's also fun because they are actually seeing the light, the motor running. There are positive results, and then begin to see the fact that what they're doing is causing a flow of electricity. They work in partners, sometimes with just 2, sometimes they work in a group of 4. It's a cooperative thing. One of the big things, positive points, I think, of the 8th grade program is that they really need to learn to work with another person. Some of them have problems with that, associating with somebody else and sharing both the knowledge that they're gaining and the work that they have to do, the cleanup. So there's a lot of cooperation that's required in doing this.
Keeping the body sharp helps in keeping the mind sharp. And being prepared to learn is as true in physical education as it is in any other class. One important aspect of this is the warm-up period before the actual physical activity. How can that be fun?
2 7th grade classes are doing a warm-up exercise before the volleyball activity of the day. The purpose of a warm-up is to get the body ready for the activity that the kids are going to go into. The warm-up that we have chosen for today exercises all the major muscle groups and prepares the mind mentally for the activity. By doing it to music, we encourage creativity and hope for the students it makes it seem less like work. Just watching them do it to music as opposed to doing it without music, you can just see the difference. If you just start off warming up without music, just doing it like the counting, the push-ups, then they don't feel like they have any say in what goes on in the warm-up. With music, they seem to work a lot harder at it.
Computers, multimedia, and other forms of new technology are being used on a daily basis by Rocky Run students. Not only are the students becoming prepared for the future, But once again, they're having fun in learning to use these educational tools.
As part of Rocky Run's emphasis on technology, the math department instructs students in the use of spreadsheets on the Macintosh computer. For the last 2 weeks, the students have been working on a budget project. The goals of the budget project are to demonstrate to the students real-world applications of mathematics. They've been constructing circle graphs, computing with decimals and percents. The second goal is to involve parents in the data gathering process. The third goal is to improve students' problem-solving skills and research skills. And the fourth goal that we have for this project is to demonstrate the usefulness of spreadsheets for the students. For this particular budget project, the youngsters were to pretend that they had graduated from college and were assigned to a job for the first time. They were to select a career from the newspaper want ads or from a database that we have on careers. They were to choose an apartment from the newspaper and then develop a budget considering all different kinds of living expenses. The items that they were to include were taxes, federal, local, and Social Security, food, clothing, transportation, utilities, entertainment, charity, savings, household costs, and insurance premiums.
70%, it's not there. You saved quite a bit there. Okay, you are ready to save, so you follow the procedures for save and then print. You're ready.
At the end of the year, I have the youngsters comment on all the projects that we've done during the school year. And it's interesting that this is a project that takes the most time and effort, but they said they like it the best because it is real-world applications and they get to use the computer. So I've had very good positive comments about that. Also, I've had parents write notes to me saying that they appreciated our doing this project because the youngsters realize that there's not a money tree in the backyard. And also it makes them realize how much of their income goes to the federal government and the state government in the way of taxes.
WICAT is an acronym for World Institute for Computer Assisted Teaching. WICAT Lab is our integrated learning system. We work with the students in math, reading, and writing, and we do work on remediation and enrichment for all of the students in the school. The students really enjoy WICAT. I think it presents it in a non-stressful situation for the students. They are working independently. They are not trying to keep up with the class. They can work at their own pace. If they're having problems with a particular skill, they can go back and they can look at it at their own speed. They're not being pinpointed into a time that the class is working on something. So it gives the student a flexibility of working without the pressure of keeping up with a class. So if a student is slower, they can work at their own pace, but if a student is working faster, they're not being held back by other students. And the teacher can set up a program that will work with one student and give them extra work or give enrichment to a student that needs a little extra work that might encourage them to learn faster.
The first quarter that we have tools for learning, we do keyboarding. And the second quarter, we spend all our time working with different kinds of programs. Well, see, the keyboarding is obvious because these students will use computers in the reports that they write. See, when I went to school, before the computers were invented, writing a paper was just horrible. It was so hard because when you made a mistake, it was really hard to correct. But now, with keyboarding skills, it's much faster. It's easier to correct their mistakes. So the writing that they do in their English classes and history and their science, all the other classes become less frustrating for them. The other parts of it, with graphics and getting used to using a computer, a lot of them come into the class and they're terrified of the computer. You have this tremendous range, kids that are terrified of them. I think they're just awful machines. And the kids that program at home for 3 hours every day for fun. So you get all of those together. They help each other in the class because I can only help one student at a time, so a lot of times they'll help each other.
Many classes combine technology and communication to make learning fun.
Today we were in the library doing research for our famous Black American Timeline project. They need to pick 10 events, at least 10, important events in the life of that particular person that they have selected. One of the major things that they have to do is to, once they have created their own timeline, we will be going to the computer lab where they will be typing in the information that they've gathered from the library on their 10 events. And then once these computer printouts are made, they have to display them in a creative manner. For example, if they chose Scott Joplin, who is a famous black musician, one of the groups did a replica of a piano and displayed the timeline on the piano.
You've got to know a year, and it helps if you know a month, because then it'll put it in time.
I think the timeline helps to provide the students with a visual perspective of the accomplishments of the person and their life that sometimes they don't see. They tend to see the accomplishments, but not how the person got there. So the timeline helps to show this gradual progression within the person's life.
Any questions?
In the old tradition of industrial arts, where everyone turned out the same type of project and same process, what we're trying to do is expand upon that so that the students can use what knowledge they've learned in other projects and things, bring it together with things they've learned in math and science, and come up with a solution to problems is basically what we're trying to do. Today, they're given a problem of putting out a typical birthday candle from 36 inches away using a mousetrap. They can use a couple different methods: water, air, electricity, any type of method that they can think of that will solve that problem of putting out a birthday candle. Problem-solving activity. You've got the limitations and requirements. I want to see what you can come up with. How creative can you be? I'm looking for creative solutions.
Even something as low-tech as an electronic game board can help get students excited about math.
Compare 15 and positive 15.
Equal.
Yeah, all right. I think that this adds a variety to review. It doesn't take the place of paper and pencil work, but on the other hand, the kids get motivated, they buy into this, and therefore I feel they learn in a different way. It turns on different learning styles. Learning is more enjoyable, and when learning is more enjoyable, there's usually more learning.
Greater than -7.
Very good. All right.
One special group of students is discovering that communication can be fun and can be used to help others. The peer helping class participants, while helping others, help themselves as well.
The peer helping class is divided into 3 teams. Each team has been trained under the Fairfax County POWER program, which comes through the Office of Substance Abuse Prevention. And these teams have been trained to go into the 4th grade classrooms and present lessons on the various strategies to say no to peer pressures, to negative peer pressures. Well, students at this age like to be involved in activities. It's been my experience when we've gone out to the elementary schools before that the enthusiasm for the class increases. They see a need now while they have been learning communication skills, why they have been learning peer helping skills and so forth, but they actually, this becomes a real situation for them. So they actually get to practice the things that they've been learning, and it puts the whole program into perspective for them.
If you're really convinced that you should do it, that's bad peer pressure.
You're right. So bad peer pressure is something like that's bad for you, for the environment, or for anything. And good peer pressure is something that can help you.
Part of the training that the peer helpers go through is training in communication skills. Being able to communicate your feelings, communicating through nonverbal communication. So obviously they use part of their training in communicating to the elementary students ways to say no and ways to deal with peer pressure. I think for the students, it's a way for them to feel like they are doing something that's important in terms of helping someone else, helping a younger student make better choices. It's a way that they examine their own life and taking a look at where they're headed right now in their own life and making good choices for themselves too.
While technology and improved communication help make learning fun, it would not be possible without the effort of a dedicated staff.
As you sit down with them and you allow them just to kind of talk about, well, their program, but also talk about their needs, it comes across very clearly that this is a staff that's dedicated. This is a life profession for them. They want to do right by the students, and they want to make the educational process exciting. They want the kids to leave this institution going into high school with a firm commitment to learning, whether it be in the sciences or in the home ec type activity. So I can't emphasize enough from a parent's perspective, but also because of the benefit I've had of being able to be in the position where I can see the broad scope of the teachers and the faculty and the administration. I can't stress enough the sense I have. This has some of the highest quality, committed educational folks, certainly, that I've come across.
If one were to take a look at our mission statement, I think the underlying philosophy that you would see in this building is a real desire for each and every child to understand what their potential is and how that potential can impact themselves and other students. And to do that, we not only look at who they are today, but we try to project that into who they are tomorrow. And for us, that means several things. For the kids, it means understanding what's available to them and what will be available to them and how they can use these tools to make themselves as good as they can be. And for the staff, it means a real modeling process in terms of being willing not only to do a good job today, but to take a look at how they can do a better job tomorrow. To be always willing to look at what's out there, to be willing to make the necessary changes in the curriculum as the needs arise, and to be flexible and open-minded about themselves and about their students and about what's happening in the world around them. And I think if one were to take a look at our philosophy, I think not only would you see in it a sense of caring for the people in the building, but a sense of recognition that there is no constant in terms of what is good about public education. It's always being explored, and it's always being improved upon, and new things are being learned every day. And in this faculty, the expectation is that we will become conversant in what's happening out there, and we'll make the necessary changes when we need to improve the program for kids.